Hello, this is Arielle the Inconspicuous Bear, and I'll be narrating the 10-man version of the Heroic Dark Shaman encounter in the Siege of Orgrimmar from a Guardian point of view. Before we get started, I just wanted to remind everyone that I'm not going to be covering any of the normal mode mechanics in this video. If you want a refresher on those, go ahead and click on the link to the normal mode guide, which you'll find in the top right-hand corner of your screen. I'm only going to cover those mechanics that are new in the Heroic version of the encounter. The increased damage on the random elements of this encounter make it that much worse in Heroic than normal. This causes the difficulty to vary widely from attempt to attempt. It can either be really easy to deal with, or if all the random elements conspire to really just screw you over, it can be really, really annoying to handle. This will make learning this encounter really frustrating for your raid, not necessarily you as a tank. Could be, but mostly for your entire raid group, because something will go wrong for one person and then everything just falls apart. That's why one of the biggest reasons I really don't like it, but that being said, it's totally killable. It's just really, really annoying. That all being said, let's talk about the two new mechanics that exist in the Heroic Mode version of this encounter. Basically, the Shamans gain a new totem, in air quotes, called like a rusted iron totem or something. Anyway, it drops when they have 95% health, which is basically before the first set of dogs die. This totem grants Cardress the iron prison ability, which does 100% physical damage to them to the target after 1 minute. This is random among whoever is in range, although it does not prefer tanks. It prefers everyone but tanks. However, it is possible, and I've had this happen to me, for the Cardress tank to get the prison. You just need to make sure that you're watching for the debuff, because you'll need to pop either Barkskin or Survival Instincts to make sure you don't die. The new ability that Harem gains is called Iron Tomb. Basically, the ground starts rumbling, and then this iron tomb-looking thing pops out of the ground. If you're in the area of effect when it pops out, you take 500k physical damage. This, as far as I know, cannot actually target tanks, I don't think. As to the best of my knowledge, we've only ever encountered it happening on healers or DPS. For the Harem group. So, as far as I know, you should never have to worry about this. There will be a bunch of them after the start of the encounter, kind of off in a corner somewhere, wherever your ranged are standing for the start of the fight. But other than that, you don't really have to worry about them. They do not block line of sight, however, they do block movement, so take that with a grain of salt. The choice of tank items in this encounter depends on which boss you're actually tanking. If you're tanking Cardress, I highly recommend the DPS cloak, because the slime spawns, if you get a cloak proc during them, will basically just evaporate. They will instantly die. Whereas if you're tanking Harem, there's nothing really else to worry about. However, Froststorm Strike hits really, really hard, so it's possible, however, albeit really unlikely, that you could get an Ash Flare explosion and a Frost Strike at the same time, which might do a lot of damage, and depending on how much health you have, could kill you. So if you're tanking Harem, I'd probably recommend the tank cloak for the first time you do it, whereas if you're taking Cardress, definitely recommend the DPS cloak. In terms of the meta gem, you definitely want to use the tank one. There's a lot of damage in this fight, no matter if you're taking Cardress or Harem, so having the meta gem, especially during the heroism phase, is really, really valuable, even for the slimes, because those slime explosions kind of hurt a lot. So if you get a gem proc during them, that's really good. For talent choices, it's important to note that this is based on my experience having only tanked Cardress. I've never actually tanked Harem, because tanking Harem is boring, and I like to do the fun stuff, and then force my other tanks to do the boring stuff. So take it for what you will. I prefer Feline Swiftness or Wild Charge for the Tier 1 talents. Obviously, Displacer Beast is worthless, so you never take that, but it's the other choice between the other two is really personal preference. If Poison Mist and Ash Flare totems have a line up really closely together, then having Feline Swiftness is good, because it buys you extra time in order to move out of the Ash Flare totem before it explodes and kills you. Otherwise, Wild Charge, if they don't line up together, allows you to drop all the slimes and get back to the boss really quickly, so you can continue building rage. For Tier 2, take Asira's Gift. There could be some argument made for renewal for a Cardress tank if you are not within range of the boss or anything to melee for a long time. Kind of go with it, roll with the program. If you find that you think renewal would be really helpful, go ahead and take it. Otherwise, I just end up using Asira's Gift the entire time. Tier 3, you just take Typhoon. There's no reason to take anything else in this encounter. Tier 4, take Incarnation. Again, no reason to take anything else. Tier 5, take Vortex. You're beginning to see a pattern here. Typhoon and Vortex are really, really strong for the handling the slimes. And if you're taking Harem, you don't need them. but if you're tanking Carders, they're incredibly useful for keeping the slimes away from everyone, especially your healer. And then for tier 6, Nature's Vigil. There's no way to ever make use of Heart of the Wild in this fight. You could theoretically make an argument for Dream of Snares, but I found that it's usually just better to rely on your range, not to be stupid, and for your healer to take care of making sure they don't die to prisons. And Nature's Vigil does a lot of damage, and B provides a lot of off healing, especially when you line it up with like Ashflow totems or something. In terms of Guardian-specific things in this encounter, I'm going to deviate a little bit and talk about Symbiosis first. Having a Consecration for Symbiosis is really, really powerful for the Carter's tank, because what you can do is run off into an unoccupied area, but right before the slime starts spawning, pop Consecration and Barkskin at the same time, and that way when the slimes spawn, they immediately take damage and are aggroed onto you, and you also reduce the damage that you take. Well, Barkskin's self-explanatory, but the Consecration is really important because it keeps the slimes locked onto you instead of aggroing to your healer immediately, and then the radius is large enough that you can actually dance around the edge of the Consecration to keep damaging the slimes while they're not hitting you, like they can't reach you because you're moving too fast, but they're kiting them around a circle on the Consecration, and if you get a cloak proc, they all just vaporize. So it's really something I found that's really useful to do, and if you're a Cardress tank, you might want to think about doing that too. The only other thing to remember as a Cardress tank is that you should use Stampeding Roar to reposition the boss really quickly. I like to use it right after the third storm goes out, after the split, so that when the Poison Mist Totems spawn, we're in a completely unstormed area, and we don't have to worry about people getting knocked up or damaged by storms or any stupid crap like that. And then I also like to use it again, probably one or two spawns after the Ash Flare Totem to move back to the start of the starting place. You'll see it on the video, and that allows us to make sure that we're keeping away from storms. Keeping away from storms is like a very important part of this encounter, and if you're able to position the boss so that your range don't have to worry about dying to them, that's an extremely useful thing to do. That's really all the advice I have to offer for the Dark Shamans encounter. It's going to take you a lot of attempts to get used to it, but once you do, you'll feel a lot better. I hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck on Siege of Orgrimmar. Well done.
Keep going.
Oops, sorry.
Pretty. Terrible.
I'm embarrassed.
Just finishing your sentences.